Implementing our models, we'll open our text editor to the models.py file in our Adoptions app. First, I'll unfold the Wisdom Pets folder, then the Adoptions folder, and double-click the models.py file. The first line in this file is an import statement of the models module from Django.db. This contains the base class called model that we'll need to inherit from for each model that we define. Now, I'll remove this comment that's no longer needed. Let's start with a model for storing our pet information. So, we'll create a class called pet, and we'll make it inherit from models.model. Next, I'll start providing the fields for this model. Let's start with the pet's name, and we'll use a char field. For a pet's name, a reasonable max length might be about 100 characters, so we'll set max length equal to 100. Now I'd like to define a few more char fields for the submitter, species, and breed of the pet. So I'll copy this line and paste it a few times and change it as needed. First, I'll have the submitter, and then next, I'll do the species and breed. I probably don't need 100 characters for species and breed, so I'll just bring these values down to 30. Also, since some pets might not have a breed or it might not be known, I'll use blank equals true on the breed field. Next, I'll define a description field, and since it's difficult to know how long we should allow for, I'll make this a text field so that the length isn't restricted. Next, I'd like to create a field for the pet's sex. Since we only need to track male or female, we can use the choices attribute of a char field. First, we need to create the values for these choices. To define this set of choices, I'll come above my fields and insert a line, and I'll create a constant called sex choices, spelled sex_choices all uppercase. I'll define this to be a list of our choices, so I'll set it equal to square braces, and inside of these square braces, we'll put our choices. Each choice is a two-tuple, where the first value is what is stored in the database, and the second value is used as a display string in Forms and in the Django admin. To create a tuple, I'll do open parens, and then for my first value, I'll put the string capital M for male, and for the display value, I'll type male with a capital M. After this tuple, I'll put a comma and start a new tuple with the values capital F for the storage value and capital F female for the display value. Now we're ready to go back and define our sex field using these choices. After description, I'll define a field called sex and set it equal to models.charField, and I can set the max length to 1 since I know that the value will be either M or F. And now I can set choices to our sex choices that we've just defined. Since we may not be able to sex all pets, I need to set this to blank equals true so that we can have pets with no value of sex recorded. Now I'll make a field for the submission date, calling it submission_date, and I'll use a DateTimeField so we can track the date and time that a pet was submitted. I need to add a field for the pet's age, so let's use an IntegerField. For this field, I'll set null to true in case pets are rescued with an unknown age. I'm opting to use null equals true rather than blank equals true here, because with an integer field, the submission of a blank value is recorded as 0, which isn't distinguishable from storing 0 explicitly to indicate that the pet is less than 1 year old. However, storing null in the database makes it clear that the age is unknown. Now that we've got fields for our pet data, we need to make a model for tracking our vaccines. For this purpose, I'll create a class called vaccine, and I'll also make it inherit from models.model. For the vaccines, I'm really only interested in tracking the name of each vaccine, so we'll create a char field called name, and let's set its max length to 50. Lastly, with our vaccine model in place, we need to define the relationship between these two models. Since a pet can have many vaccines, and the same vaccine can be applied to many pets, this is a many-to-many relationship, and I will use the many-to-many field. This type of field is unique in that it can be defined on either model, but let's just choose that we'll put it on the pet model. We'll call the field vaccinations, and we'll use the models.manyToMany field. This field requires a first argument, which is the name of the model it's related to as a string, so we'll use the string vaccine with a capital V. Then I want to set blank to true so that this isn't required, because some pets might not have any vaccinations. With this complete, we'll save our models.py file, and our data model is now in place.